Hello, everybody. We are so excited that you are joining us here today. We are with Dr. Ferrara. Dr. Ferrara, you want to say hello to everybody?
Hello, everyone.
Yes, so we have a very exciting topic for you today. We're going to talk about how do you stay well around the holidays. So I want you guys to get actively involved in today's topic. With today's topic, Dr. Ferrara had his
Today's topic is going to be holiday health tips.
Yes, so we're going to talk about how do you stay well around the holidays because, as you know, a lot of people get sick sometimes around the holidays, and so we want to make sure that each and every one of you stay well. So I want you to share this video because this is a very timely video, a live video that we want you to share with your friends because at the end of the day, it's about everybody staying well around the holidays to the best of your abilities. And so we're going to just talk about this today. So, Dr. Farah, can you tell us about how do we stay well around the holidays? And I know we're going to talk about a variety of topics, but how do we stay well in general around the holidays before we get into the real strong detail?
So, first of all, we have a special guest coming, so he'll be added to this. But there's multiple facets of this. Well, when we talk about staying healthy, we talk about infectious disease. We are talking about drinking and driving. We talking about washing hands, et cetera, and things like that. So there's multiple topics by staying healthy around the holidays.
Absolutely. So this is what we're going to discuss today. And so, like I said, I mean, I know like around the holidays, I don't know why, but sometimes I get sick. Sometimes, I mean, around Thanksgiving. And yeah, I mean, I catch a bad cold. It seems like always around this time of the year. But I've been doing pretty good so far this year. And so I know we're going to talk about washing hands because this week is what?
This week is Hand Washing Awareness Week.
So what does that mean for the average person who's out there watching us right now?
For the average person, know that hand washing prevents communicable diseases, or also adult, but wipes, hand sanitizers, and things like that. I just recently traveled, and my routine is Atlanta Airport has trains and different things that they're potentially, carry germs, including the plane. So the first thing on the train, I literally carry this, this RIP hand wipes that I carry in my backpack, and I literally, as soon as I get on the train, I put one on me because you have to hold down to the railing, and I wipe down my area where my hand is, and then when I get on the plane, I literally wipe down the headrest, the whole seat, the food console, whatever it is, the lap tray, the seatbelt, everything. You know what? I usually don't get sick, and very careful about, if the person sitting next to me is coughing, whatever, then believe it or not, I'm kind of rude. I put on a mask.
That's funny.
And like I said, those are the kind of things that prevent things like that. Always carrying hand wipes. Always wash your hands, especially after you. To me, I'm kind of even after I shook hands with somebody, or I work, and even tapping the players on the back. As you know, as a sports medicine physician, and at the athletes, they sweat, and I tap their back, and they say, "Hey, good job." I literally have my hand wiping afterwards. So, and that's a good way to wipe it. So, hand washing prevents communicable diseases, I think.
And so this is what we are talking about here today. We're talking about how to stay well around the holidays. So we want you guys to share this video today because this is a lot of great information that we really know that other people want to hear as well. And we do have a special guest coming into the studio right now. So and so so we do have a very special guest coming here, but we want you to share this video because at the end of the day, it really is about staying well around the holidays. And like just Dr. Ferrara just shared about how he gets on the airplane and he does his wipes. So I never really heard anybody talk about that. So that's very interesting.
It does help. I mean, it's interesting. On the plane, the person next to me, literally, there was ketchup or whatever stains everywhere. Just who knows if it was vomit? Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is what we have our special guest here. Dr. Carter, you want to say hi to everybody?
Yes, hi everybody. How y'all doing?
You guys all remember him from the summer?
Yeah, so we are live with Dr. Carter and Dr. Ferrara, and we are talking about how to stay well during the holidays. We just talked about, Dr. Ferrara mentioned about wiping the seats down on the airplane with a white, with I guess a cloth. What type of cloth did you use?
They have those hand sanitizer cloth, almost like Clorox wipes. I wish I had them in my backpack. There's different brands, and they come like in a square packet, like it has like a resealable use, almost like baby wipes, essentially.
I see, and so how he does that every single time that he gets on an airplane, especially this time of the year, because a lot of people do get sick around this time of the year. So this is what we're talking about. So, Dr. Carter, do you have any other ways as far as some things that people should do? Right now, we're just talking about general wiping things down, hand washing. Since this is hand washing week, right, right. So this is what we're talking about. So you have any other suggestions as far as hand washing? How many times should somebody wash their hands a day? That's what I always wanted to know.
Well, what you really need to do is wash your hands anytime you get them dirty. That's what it comes down. So it's not a certain number, but anytime you come in contact with any contaminants, you want to really try to keep your hands clean, especially if you're going to have any contact with anybody else, if you're going to have any oral, if you're going to do anything with your mouth like eat. And if you go to the bathroom, you want to make sure you've cleaned your hands. But just like Dr. Ferrara was saying, if you're in a situation where you're going to be contacting objects that might have any viruses or bacteria or any foreign body objects or foreign things on it, then you really need to try to keep your hands clean. On an airplane, that becomes really something that you need to focus on because there are so many people doing so many things, and there's so many opportunities for viruses and bacteria to just live.
So what type of bacteria or viruses actually can people pick up when they don't do what you just said?
Well, I mean, it's a plethora of viruses and bacteria. I mean,
I like to say, as Carl Sagan used to be, for those of you who were born like more than 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, there were billions and billions and billions of viruses and bacteria.
Wow.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the way I even focus on, even this is with my patients, I don't try to determine exactly which bacteria virus is causing the problem because it's the same thing at the end of the day. They need to be eradicated so that you don't get infected.
Wow, so this is very interesting that we're having this discussion today. So if you guys are watching this right now and you're watching this live, please share this video with your friends and let them know about what we're talking about here today because it's so interesting and this is something that you don't hear about every day. A lot of things you hear on Facebook has nothing to do with what we're talking about here today, but we're trying to give you helpful tips to share with you and your friends and family so that they can stay well during the holidays. So, Dr. Farrar, you're going to add something?
Yeah, while we're on the subject of travel, talk about holiday safety. A lot of people travel during holidays, and now we're talking about the planes. And I think maybe Dr. Carter has more insight. When you travel, a lot of people have illnesses. I know they wear the bracelets and IDs, but especially if you sort of what we call fragile health-wise, if you have congestive failure, heart conditions, it's a good idea to make sure you bring your health records or a copy of EKG and things like that in case something should happen. You want to add to that?
No, absolutely. Dr. Farrar is exactly right. When you have what we call comorbidities or other illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure, or any real extensive medical issues like congestive heart failure, maybe you've had a heart attack, and especially if you're at risk for something like having a pulmonary embolus, you need to have your information with you in terms of the medicines that you're taking. You need to have a list from your physician of any special conditions that you might need. You need to have an EKG if it's something involving cardiac-wise or heart condition. And you also, sometimes you might need a letter from your doctor to say that this is exactly what it is that your illness is. And if there is any special needs, you need to make the flight attendants aware of this so that they know what's going on. In terms of things like risk of pulmonary embolus, sedentary situations can cause you to potentially get a pulmonary embolus, like sitting on a plane. So you want to do things like stand up frequently, do leg exercises where you're moving your legs, your feet back and forth, so you can keep the circulation going. But if you're at risk, if you're at a low risk, you should talk to your doctor before you get on a plane, so that you need to know if you need to be on any medications. If you're at a medium risk, you should know that what medicines you have. And then, too, if you're at a high risk, you might not even want to consider being on, but you definitely have to be treated at that point. So it's something that you need to you need to have a prospective view on this and not just say, I'm going to get on a plane, because it could become a serious situation for someone who's ill.
So,
We work in the emergency room. It's so much easier to treat somebody on EKG to compare, you having a heart attack or not, or the records, what medications are you on. Even more important, where allergies, especially, your family brings you in pretty sick, sometimes from eating to salt overload, people going congestive heart failure, diabetes, or renal failure. Their blood pressure brings much medical information. Even if it's written on just a plain sheet of paper, that information helps so much.
so when you are traveling on a plane, and let's just say you're on an 8 to 10 hour flight, how many times should you actually get up so that you can walk around with your legs? 'Cause I've always kind of wanted to know that for myself as well.
Sure, sure. You want to get up at least once an hour and move around, and so that you can have that blood circulating through your legs and in other parts of your body too, but especially through your legs, because that's where the majority of what we call DVTs, or deep vein thrombosis, occur. And you want to make sure that the blood flow is there for you. Also, keeping your muscles moving back and forth will help in distributing the blood through your blood system and keeping them out of your legs.
So how long should you stand up for? Is it like a matter of 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes? What would you say?
Usually around about 5 minutes, and moving around 5 minutes plus if you can. It depends on the flight. And then also, if you're sleeping on the plane, make sure that you move around and turn positions and not just stay in that same position the whole time. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, my tips is, we talk about the 5 minutes. I tend to walk around the cabin. There's always especially if you're flying that hour flights, you can move from one side to the other and just take one walk or go to the bathroom. And then the places where I can, I'll do some stretches. And I think Clint is right. If you're in your seat, there is things you can do. If you just do calf stretches, I don't think the camera will catch this, but just keep moving your feet back and forth. If you just flex and then unflex your feet back and forth and move them around, and you feel your calves working, that's pretty good. Or just lift your leg right and left. If you're sitting, especially if you're sitting there, because we worked at South Fulton, right? I think every shift I had, there was always one or two patients who came in because Hartsfield, for those of you not in Atlanta, this hospital is literally a few miles from the airport, and always around 6 to 11 o'clock, that's when the international flights land, we get somebody come in with a blood clot. Yep.
So this is what we're talking about here today. Now, we just had a question from Leslie. She said, is it true more people have heart attacks during the holidays?
Well, I don't know if there's a number. I would say no. I mean,
Statistically, that's not true. My favorite one, is there more heart attacks during a snowstorm? And the only reason I think it increases because people have heart disease, the strain of pushing snow puts increased strain in your heart. So the answer is yes, but the holidays doesn't increase any more stress. I think it's probably more the day after Thanksgiving or Christmas for illnesses like renal failure and congestive heart failure. Certainly is an increase due to the change in diet.
Now we talked about washing hands, and we talked about being on an airplane for a certain amount of time, whether it's 8 hours or 10 hours, just in general. So what we wanted to know, what about drinking during the holidays? This is what a lot of people do. So can you tell us about that?
Well, well, with drinking, I mean, it is alcohol consumption, and if overdone, it can have a lot of negative effects. It can over-sedate you, something that you don't want to do too much on a plane because you get too sedated, then you can limit your activity, which could set up for a pulmonary embolus. But during the holidays, you have to do what makes you comfortable, but over-drinking is not the best thing. Sometimes, as they say, a little wine will help the blood circulate, so one glass is fine, one or two, but we do encourage you not to over-drink.
So does wine really help the heart, just like you mentioned?
Well, it can increase your blood flow through your heart and increase your heart rate, and so that allows the blood flow through the body more than it would normally do if you hadn't had any. Yes.
And so how often should somebody drink wine in order to do that?
Again, we're going after these statistics. Now, it's said that a glass of wine a day is good for you. And I know some older people who have been used that as a mantra, okay? Or whiskey, yeah. So the whiskey, maybe not too hard on the whiskey, but you're right, the whiskey. But no, I mean, alcohol in moderation is not a bad thing. It's just when it's overdone and where it becomes an issue. And so I think that it's a good idea. Sometimes even getting on a plane, I don't advocate you drinking on a plane, but sometimes that will relax people enough. It's just, again, you don't want to overdo it on the plane because it could set you into another situation that would be a bad medical situation. And also, it could lead to you, again, getting sedated more than you need to on the plane. And if you have some other comorbidities, it might exacerbate those at the wrong time.
Or taking sedatives as people do before on a plane.
Right. Now, what you don't need to do, again, I agree with you, Anthony, you don't want to mix these. Now, that's what's really important. You don't want to get on the plane, and that's what a lot of people will do because they're anxious. They'll want some alcohol to relax them, but then they've had a sedative or anti-anxiety medicine, and then try to mix those, and that's not a good setup going on a plane. Yep.
We're talking about drinking, but also from a drinking and driving point of view. People get to go to parties, they serve alcohol, it's free, and just like anything else, be smart about it because the rate of DUIs actually goes up statistically during the holidays. And with such things right now as Uber and Lyft and car services, there's no reason for that. Just plan accordingly, especially, office parties, going to parties. That's okay, fine, you're going to drink, that's fine. Like Dr. Carter said, just drink in moderation, but just don't drink and drive. That's just common sense. Obviously, we talked about other things out there like Lyft and Uber, but I wouldn't, at the same time, I would not say, well, I'm not going to drive a car, but I'm going to get on a scooter. I can see people doing that, given the increased number of scooter injuries we've seen. Somebody's going to do that. No, I'm not going to drink and drive, but I'm going to get on a scooter. Yes.
And so what about like when people are preparing food? Because a lot of people are preparing food, things like chicken, things like turkey, and there's salmonella involved here. So do you have any tips for that as far as like washing hands and things like that when you are preparing foods like that?
So, well, again, back to the hand. Everything's about the hand washing because you want to stay as sanitary as possible. When you're handling foods, especially like a chicken or a meat, you want to make sure that you're not cross-contaminating other items. So you want to handle them in their designated area, kind of the thought process. And then once you start handling them, you don't want to go and start engaging other areas that are where you would start the contamination. And then do not take your hands and put them in your mouth. I mean, a lot of cooks want to taste their food now, but especially with chicken, you want to make sure your hands are washed thoroughly when you're done, and you also want to thoroughly wash the meat prior, and then afterwards make sure it's washed well.
Okay, that's awesome. So you have any other words, Dr. Ferrara?
No, we're talking about health tips by being on a plane, but other people get sick from germs, but also people get sick from food, vomiting, and just come smart. Just when you choose your foods, you can tell if it does that, especially if you go to a party, the smell is not right. If it's been there sitting for a while, if this thing's supposed to be warm and all of a sudden it's cold, things that have mayonnaise in it, especially. And then Stephen had a question about romaine lettuce. Romaine lettuce is still banned from California, so I don't think we're getting romaine lettuce from California here in Georgia.
Absolutely. So if you guys have any other questions, please feel free to put them up there. Dr. Ferrara and Dr. Carter will definitely definitely answer your questions because this is why we're here tonight. And so we're not going to be here long. We just want to come on for a little bit. So make sure that you share this video with your friends. Make sure that you let your friends know exactly what we talked about here today because it's extremely helpful information that you just don't hear a lot out there on Facebook. So please share this video and let your friends know exactly what you're watching. So we thank you guys for watching and tuning in for us today. And you have any other last words or anything like that?
No, that's pretty much it. It's also safety and putting up Christmas trees or lights. Be smart about it with the ladder. Have somebody hold the ladder. One of the things we get injuries is people putting up Christmas trees. You're trying to put on the star, but on top of a couple of chairs. Just be smart about it. Do it with somebody. If you have a ladder, just have somebody. Don't just get on the house and put the lights. Just have somebody hold it. But just be smart about it, because that's when we see a lot of injuries. People putting out Christmas lights. Also, for the kids or getting toys for the first time, especially look like things like bicycles or scooters. Just be smart about it, as far as make sure that they just don't just jump on a scooter and go, and just realize that there's some safety involved.
Well, we do have a question as well from Stephen. Stephen says, what if family and friends come for the holiday dinner and are sick? What can we do to ensure that we don't get sick? I'd hate for them to contaminate our whole family. Thanks a lot, Stephen, for that question there.
Well, again, Stephen, this is back to what we were talking about. It is all about keeping your hands clean and remaining sanitized the appropriate way. So whoever's sick, you want to keep them in there, out of other people's social space, so that they do not cause any contamination to them, to other people, as well as if there is some contact, to continue to keep your hands clean. If it's a respiratory issue, again, you want to make sure the social space is not where it's going to, or an area where they will be able to increase the potential for infectivity. Just remember, everybody, that you're always around viruses or bacteria. So when somebody comes around with one, it is important to have them in a place where you will not get sick, but they do not have to be ostracized just because they have a cold. The key is, during these holiday seasons, keep your immune system built up. And that's what that has to do with your diet, and keep your body fit, getting enough rest. There are some other home remedies that you can look into, and if you come over to the clinic, we can talk to you about those some more. But yes, that's what you want to do.
But Stephen brings up a good point about, one of the biggest issues about health issues is, the holidays, family members who are sick. Right. And sure, afterwards, a week later, we see a lot of people who traveled, or when somebody, neighbor's house or relative's house, and are sick. And it's one of those things that you have to make a decision. The relative's got the flu, has got a cold, has got strep. Do you politely ask him to say, hey, look, maybe skip this holiday, or make the decision to have him wear a mask? I think it's appropriate, but just saying, give them rules. Okay, these are the rules. You wash your hands, you cover when you cough, or sit at the other end of the table. Go to Jonas. You know what I'm saying? I think it's perfectly appropriate.
Well, one other thing is, you also want to be mindful about relatives that may have other comorbidities or be at risk of developing infection. So relatives that are at the extremes of ages, like small children, and then the elderly, or someone who may have a illness like a cancer or something, and maybe on drugs that might be suppressing their immune system. So that's something else to keep mindful of during the holidays. I did want to say something, make another comment about the plane flight. The thing to also remember, and I think I may have mentioned it, but I want to just mention it again, make sure that if you do have some illnesses, that you speak and let the personnel on the plane know, especially if it's going to be a longer trip, so they can be aware of any special circumstances you might need. Sitting on one side on the aisle instead of sitting on the by the window, or if you have a heart condition of what needs to be done. So just remember that that's very important, and not just to come on the plane with the illness and not let anyone know.
Absolutely. So we do want to thank you, Dr. Carter and Dr. Ferrara, for being here. So we will hopefully see you guys maybe another week from now. Sure. We like to go live every week. So
I would like to also say this is the second night of Hanukkah. So happy Hanukkah to all my Jewish friends out there in the world.
Happy Hanukkah.
And happy Kwanzaa when we finally get there. I don't know if I'll be on because I might be out of town. But the other thing is, everybody have a very safe holiday. Enjoy the holidays, enjoy being with your relatives, and just enjoy the peace of the season.
Absolutely.
Enjoy the family.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back on another week from now. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.